The last 4 times this chart saw a golden cross, we exploded into an enormous altcoin season. The next golden cross will finish in the next 5 to 12 days, and from there we can see probably the biggest altcoin season that we have ever seen before. Time is running out. And as we look here, we can see that it's already getting started. In this video, I'm going to break down all the key data that we're looking at right now with Bitcoin, as well as key narratives within altcoins that are really starting to wake up today and will be continuing to pump for the rest of this week. As well as that, I'm going to cover a couple of key coins that are yet to see some of these significant pumps so that you can be getting in early. Do me a favor, hit that like button. And let's get into today's video. Now, the first couple of things I want to talk about are these charts here. ETF aggregation flows going into Bitcoin ETFs. Now, typically in the past, when we start to see loads of liquidity coming into the markets like we're seeing right now, as you can see with this record high that we are currently undergoing with regards to liquidity, then you will see that lots of funds in the past have been flowing into things like ETFs on gold. However, as you can see from this chart, those are dropping and we're now seeing huge inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. This is extremely exciting because in the past, this phase of the bull market was typically driven by smart money retail investors. Right now, though, it's completely different. This phase of the market is clearly being driven by institutional money, and that institutional money is what is pumping the market right now and tells us that we could be moving very quickly beyond all-time highs for Bitcoin. And what fuels my conviction for this? Many of the bears out there are still sat on these sidelines, okay, waiting for a pullback in crypto. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I think at some point we will get that pullback, but personally I believe that we're going beyond all-time highs before we get any significant pullback at all, which could be over bullish, but when you look at the charts, we're really not that far away. Now, as we look into this, which is the total market cap of crypto minus Bitcoin, you can see on the 2-week chart, we get a golden cross, the 50 and the 100 EMAs. Now, every single time that we have seen this crossover happen, then we always see a huge altcoin season exploding afterwards. Because it happened in 2016, it happened in 2020, and right now, it is moments away from happening. As soon as that next candle is printed, that crossover is going to happen, and then you can see exactly what follows. Now, I think 2020 is a good indicator of what we might be expecting here. We saw this big pump, and then we see this pullback that happened later on. That pullback will likely come, in my opinion, when all of the people who are late to the party, all the bears are sat on the sideline right now, will be forced to FOMO in because they will realize they've missed the boat, and then that dump will come. And yes, across the news right now, you're hearing disastrous stuff about the economy. Now, let's think about what your job in these markets is as a retail investor. You are strictly there to provide the liquidity to the big money. That means they basically create a system where you panic sell at the bottoms and you buy at the tops because you are manipulated by the news as a fairly uneducated retail trader. Therefore, we're seeing lots of scary news right now about how it's a terrible time to get into the markets. We've got recessions coming and all that stuff. Recessions will eventually come, but if you look into this cycle right now of house prices, you can see that these cycles pay out every 20 plus years or so. And that typically shows us that we will run into a very strong phase of the market, which we're starting into right now, into around 2025. And this typically, again, is driven by liquidity, money entering back into the markets. Now, what I want to say right now is that this time is different. Now, I know a lot of people get the fear about this sentence, but what makes it different this time is that the Bitcoin ETF is in play. We're already seeing billions and billions of dollars being bought up by big institutions such as BlackRock, Grayscale, etc. And that's perhaps why we've seen a very different February from how we have seen them in the past. You can already see 2020, 2022, all the way, we always get these typically very strong pullbacks. And while that obviously could potentially happen, I do think the ETF inflows are really going to be supporting the growth. So yes, it does feel very much like an altcoin season is coming. So where am I directing my efforts and attention right now? Well, like it or not, we need to understand a little bit more about where this money is flowing in the market right now. And there's few better places to look than understanding what is going on in crypto bubbles. Why would that be? Well, there's a few coins across here that are pumping for a variety of different reasons. We got WorldCoin here up 42%, which is pretty impressive. Got HBAR finally making a bit of a dent in this chart, which it hasn't really done for like a year or so. Got Stacks, Beam, and a handful of others. The graph, notably here, is having a very strong run. We're also seeing Akash, Helium continuing to grow. Akash has been absolutely booming over the last few weeks. And if you're subscribed to this channel, which hopefully by now you are, then you'll realize it's because DeepIn and AI are really starting to grow. Now, I've talked about this multiple times. With the rise of ChatGPT and a huge bunch of other AI products growing very, very fast, there's a massive demand for AI. But most notably within crypto, the biggest demand comes from infrastructure that is supporting AI, because the traditional markets are built already to handle this growth. And it's incredibly expensive to go outside shopping for extra compute power or extra storage or anything like that, which is forcing people on chain. And that's why Akash, a cloud compute service, is absolutely booming. We're seeing Helium, another DeepIn project, but in the wireless network space, absolutely exploding. Render, again, having a really strong run in the cloud compute section as well. So while there are a few anomalies within here, we can see that there is something developing. Arweave as well, looking strong in the decentralized storage. So let's zoom out a bit, see if we're building some strength in this area to work out whether this is the narrative we really want to pay attention to. So we go to 100 to 200, and let's see again, we've got Agix, an AI project. We got Ocean AI, okay? Jasmine, which does sort of fit within the DeepIn space, Fetch, etc. Now, I want you to realize something. I'm not completely just ignoring some of these projects, okay? But some of these projects are kind of going alone. They're not going with their narrative, okay? What we want to do is find the narrative and see confirmation that a lot of projects within the AI, within like the DeepIn cloud compute, cloud storage, etc., AI agents is starting to move as well. We go to 201 to 300. Again, we've got Flux in there, Numerai, and a handful of others. It's very evident that AI is going to be having a very, very strong year within crypto, and all those elements to support that as well. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other projects out there and other narratives that are going to do well, but I want to focus on this area in particular, because this is something, and I recommend screenshotting this if you haven't already, like taken note of that, and it's this, guys. Understand this kind of flow pattern. Now, AI is an incredibly demanding thing, okay? Now, it's extremely complicated to understand as well. You ever go and look at like a Tao Bitenza video, you'll be left at the end of it like, you know, completely confused. And that's coming from someone who tried to make a video on Tao Bitenza and tried to like communicate it as clearly and as simply as possible, which is damn near impossible to do because it's so complex. But we need to understand this flow. Right now, there's demand for AI in various different platforms and programs, and it all flows through this like DeepIn structure, okay, where you've got the infrastructure layer at the bottom, of which you can see a handful of projects here. Now, there's others in there, obviously, that you won't see on this chart, but just to understand where it's all going. These are all providing things like storage, compute power, and various other processing bits. Now, you've got Bitenza here, which you'll notice pops up in a variety of different places. That's because Bitenza is kind of like a full stack for all of these things. You then have like a zero knowledge layer that basically handles the flow of information from these general compute parts to the AI platforms. And these AI platforms are where all the AI applications or decentralized applications are then built upon. Here you can see a few of which, most notably AutoNolas, which I've talked about on this channel quite a lot recently, and is a coin that I'm holding and continuing to accumulate more from. And then you can see these decentralized applications that are built on here. And you're like, okay, this is too much, too complicated. Fair enough. But what I'm trying to get at is this. All of these different elements are very much in demand for an industry that is exploding quicker than pretty much any other industry out there. So the biggest growth areas that we're seeing right now is general purpose compute, not just for AI, but for like rendering services and other bits and pieces like that. Hence, Render's doing really well. Nosana's also doing very well, as is Akash. And while a lot of these projects have already been exploding really aggressively, because of the nature of the market, we could still see a lot of growth in this area. And here's another image if you want to take a screenshot of all the different kind of areas and a few projects within those areas that I recommend going and taking a look at. Decentralized compute still remains the most kind of explosive area within DeepIn. And ML training is also one to pay attention to, with Gensim being a really big, interesting project that's getting launched very soon. And AI agents as well, definitely something to look at. Personally, I really like AutoNolas. Take a look at that. I recommend taking a look at Morpheus. VAIoT, also very exciting. Now remember this, look at where we are right now and look at the potential that is coming ahead of us. Every time we've seen explosive growth after this crossover, and look at some of the results of it so far. This is Akash, guys. It's been absolutely exploding towards the upside. Now, obviously, as with anything, don't go and buy the tops like this, because ultimately you then just get dirty big pullbacks on you. It's already happening with Akash, and potentially you could see some form of a pullback coming with Akash. Now, obviously, if you subscribed, you would have seen it, but I made a video the other day about 4 brand new projects that are launching in the cloud compute section, which I recommend you going and checking out after this. And while it might feel like this, if you're too zoomed into charts, that, you know, these projects have been absolutely rallying and you've completely missed the boat, as soon as you zoom out and look at like a weekly chart, which is what I recommend if you're just buying on spot and trading anyway, then you'll see a lot of these projects are still great value. You got Flux here sitting around 86 cents, back to previous highs like a 3x or so, but I think we're in a very different stage right now. I think a lot of AI projects and a lot of projects that support AI will actually be ready to see a huge bull market this time. Lots of people are always saying like ICP and whatever else like this right now. I do think that ICP is going to be absolutely enormous, but I think it's more next bull market. All the work's going to be coming into fruition rather than strictly just now, although there are areas of deep in which ICP is still very exciting. If you find projects like a Cash and then another one, Arweave, that do specific things and are already pumping, then rely on the strength of the narrative to carry up some other projects. Arweave, decentralized storage, you can see up 11% today. However, Filecoin, also in decentralized storage, a much more exciting prospect than Arweave, hasn't really been showing much growth at all. This is still a big bag that I hold. You can see after breaking this downtrend, we came back for a retest around $4.50. Already we're back up to around $6.40. And I do think that Filecoin will be getting on the move very early. So while a lot of this stuff that I've been talking about sounds really complex, what I would be trying to focus in on right now is by looking at a broader spectrum of all different coins to then see that there's key narratives to be paying attention to right now. I think it's fairly obvious. And then within those narratives, finding a few coins that have been pumping already, and then look at the secondary coins that we're pumping as well. To make it simpler, if, for example, back in December, we saw Bonk, a meme coin, absolutely pumping, lo and behold, a few days later or a week or so later, we saw Kok Inu, another meme coin, exploding. Follow the narratives. The narratives are really key. Now, in the next few videos, I'll continue to bring you new projects within this kind of narrative space that I think are extremely important to pay attention to. Because you can see, looking into every chart right now, that this is the narrative. From a chart perspective, from what it's doing, Filecoin couldn't look more exciting right now, in my opinion, for what is potentially not the most exciting concept in the world of crypto. Now, I often see people saying things like this in the comments down below. You're always like buying this and selling this, but what about taxes? What about this? What about that? Like, you know, I can't do this, I can't afford the fees. Guys, if you are using Coinbase or anything like that that's incredibly expensive, there is no reason why you shouldn't be using MEXC, which is linked down below. I personally don't have KYC on this, which is Know Your Customer, and this is really important. Because if you've got funds in crypto already and you want to trade for literally 0% fees, then go across to MEXC using that link down below. And you'll also qualify for a big bonus as well. But if you sign up with an email address rather than a phone number, and if you're in the US or wherever, you can use this platform and trade for absolutely free. Also, all those trades and things you're doing aren't really going to be recorded, which is huge. And it's so important in crypto right now that you're protecting yourself. And I get it. You're like, oh, well, I'm in the US, so I can't actually access the website. Well, guys, if you go to the link down below, then you can get a VPN from NordVPN, which will give you 4 months extra free, and it's like 30-day money-back guarantee. Click get the deal, and you'll see it costs you like £2.39 per month, which I believe is around $2.60. Correct me if I'm wrong, which is like the price of a cup of coffee. This means you can trade on spot all day long. It's not going to cost you anything, and you have access to more coins than any other exchange. Something like 4,500 different coins on MEXC. So there's pretty much every coin that you could ever ask for available on this platform. So it's an absolute no-brainer. You should be using it. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel and you want to find out more about what's going on in the markets, then subscribe, and I'll see you in the very next video.